Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this particular tutorial, we are going to build a chat application with the help of Jetpack Compose and Back4App. This app will have features like authentication, real-time chat, and push notifications. So I'll guide you through the whole process of creating this application from designing the UI part to the backend part. It will be really fun, so let's jump in. So before starting, let's talk a little more about Back4App, which is essentially a service for creating your backend applications. It offers a lot of features like containers. You can directly deploy your Docker containers, or you can build your backend with the help of Back4App dashboard. It is highly customizable and offers you features such as AI agent, which is really interesting and powerful. We will explore more about it when we will be creating the backend portion of this application. So now let's jump into the Android Studio and start with this project. Okay, so first let's create a new project. I'll start with the empty activity. Let's name our app quick chat. We will select minimum SDK as API 24. We will be selecting Kotlin DSL. Let's click on finish and create the project. Okay, so the build is complete, and meanwhile I have created some of the folders and files for the application. I have created two models for user and chat message. It will be respectively holding them, and chat screen, login screen, sign up screen, user list screen. These will be the different screens of the app. So let's start with building the login screen first. So we have a login function, which is a composable function. As we know that composable functions return UI in Jetpack Compose, and here we have the preview directive for showing a preview on the right side. Now let's create the UI first. First add states for email, password and password visible. Email and password will link up to the input fields, and password visible is for toggling the state of the password in between visible and hidden. Okay. So here I've added box and column. Box with a modifier of background white and fill max size. It will fill the available space. Column is for arranging all of the input fields and buttons. I've added a text which says welcome back, and an input field for email. It has a decoration box. In case the email is left empty by the user, it will show an warning or error. Next, I've added a spacer for space between the next items. Next is pass input for the password, and a button for logging in. In case the user don't have an account, let's add a text to navigate on the screen. Of course, we will set up navigation later. This is pretty much the UI of the login screen. Let's now build the sign up screen. So sign up screen will be similar. We'll have a extra input field for confirm password. Let's now build it. These are the four states: email, password, confirm password, and password visible. Similarly, we have a box and a column, a text which says create an account on the screen, then an input field for email, input field for password, input field for confirm password. Let me show you one of the input fields. Okay, we have a value of password, which is the state, a value change listener, which assigns the current value of the input to the password state. This says that maximum one line can be entered in this input field. And we have modifier for size, background, padding. We have some text style. We have visual transformation. That is, we can switch the state of the password between hidden and visible, of course. Similarly, we have other for the confirm password. Let's now add a button for sign up and a text in case the user already have an account, which will navigate to the login screen. Yeah, looks like the sign up is also done. The UI part is done. Now we will set up the navigation. For that, we have to add a library, which is navigation compose. Let's add it here. It's for navigating between screens. We use intents when we have to switch between activities, and in case when we need to switch between screens, we use something called navigation compose. So we have added the library. Let's change it according to the latest convention. Well, this one right here is the new way of defining dependencies inside Gradle in Kotlin. So let's take a quick look at this one. We define the versions here. So in case Navigation Compose 2.7.7 is latest, and we define the library like this. And then we reference it in our app label build.gradle. Let's sync it now, and then the dependency will be added. Okay, so we will be setting up the Navigation Compose here in the main activity. So let's first get rid of this boilerplate code. Okay, so first let's define a chat app, which is essentially a function that will hold navigation routes and all. Let's define it, and then we have a nav controller. This remember nav controller essentially returns an instance to the nav controller. Let's set up it. We'll start with the start destination of login. This means that when the application will be opened, first the first will be rendered to the screen is once defined with the login route. Let's now define the composable routes. So basically we are defining that once the route is login, this login screen should be rendered. And we are passing the nav controller so that if we need to navigate to any other screen from let's say login screen, so we can do that. The sign up is also similar to that. We have sign up route and the sign up screen is rendered on the screen. Let's modify our functions to accept nav controller. So we have to remove the preview because we have dynamic parameters. So we have to repeat this with sign up. No worries, we can test it on the real device or the emulator. So we have to remove the preview, and just like that we have the navigation done. So let's complete these functions. So if the user has already an account, it should navigate to login. So we will write nav controller dot navigate. It is a function which you can use to navigate on a specific route. So in this case, login. We will do the similar with the text buttons on the login screen that will navigate to sign up. So let's do that. Sign up here. So here we have a basic navigation done between the login and sign up screen. Let's run it and test it. As you can see, we have login screen in front of us. As soon as the app launched, first screen is opened, which is the login screen. So now let's click on sign up. It should, yeah, redirect to sign up screen, and from sign up login screen. So basic navigation is done. Let's now proceed to our third screen, which will be user list screen. So here we will dynamically render the users available inside the application. So before doing user list screen, we should first finish the functionalities of sign up and login screen, so we can test that with live data. That's why we'll start adding little bit back into the application. We'll start with login and sign up screen. Okay, now let's start integrating the backend portion of the app for login and sign up. So we will use Back4App, and Back4App offers both free and paid plans. You can check it out. The free plan is ideal for developing, learning, and prototyping. It offers you 25,000 requests to 50 MB data storage, 1 GB transfer, which is perfect for our case because we are just developing and prototyping the application. If you want to launch your application and serve it to many users, you can definitely opt for any paid plan. You get pay as you go, you get dedicated, which offers 8 CPU, 16 GB. You can read in detail about what each plan offers in detail here. Okay, so let's continue. You have to create an account on this platform. As I said, you will get a link in the description. You can use that to sign up and you can log in. I am already logged in here, so let's create a new app. So this is the interface where you can create your new app. So either you can define your requirements here and the AI agent will automatically recommend you what suits best for you, and it will create that. Or you can choose from the below options. Here you can start building your backend, or you can also deploy. If you have a container, then you can deploy that, or you can click on start AI collaboration so that you can create your database with prompt. For now we will click on build backend. We will specify the name of the app. Let's select PostgreSQL and create. You can click on dashboard to visit the dashboard of our application. So here we have options like we can create classes, which are essentially tables for your database, and you have different sections for options like for the database. This is a section. Another option is index manager, where you can create indexes for your database, and this one is cloud code. Here you can deploy your code directly. If you prefer to use Node.js, you can define your functions here. This one uses something called Parse. Back4App is built upon Parse platform, which is an open source framework for building and deploying your backend. It makes easy to define APIs, write queries. Okay, so there's that. So right here in the API section, we can select which one of the platform we want to connect with our backend. So in this case, we are going to use Android, of course. So they have really good documentations on how you can connect and configure Parse SDK, how you can query your APIs. You can do that. So let's first add Parse SDK to our Android so that we can query the database and complete our login and sign up code. So first we have to add this Maven. So first we have to go to settings.gradle.kts, and here we have to add this Maven entry. Then we have to go to app level build.gradle, and here add the Parse SDK latest version. You can take a look at the Parse SDK official GitHub page for information about which is the latest version. Right now it's 2.1.0, so I'm adding that, and by pressing Alt plus Enter, I'm converting it to the new catalog declaration. Okay, done. Now we have to click on sync. This will take some time and add that dependency to your project. So the next thing to do is go to the Android manifest file and add the permission for access, network state, and internet. Okay, for the next step, we have to create an application class. So I've created a class on the main activity level, and it extends the application class. Let's override the onCreate method, and we have to initialize the Parse SDK. Okay, for that we need application ID, client key, and the server URL. So let's define these variables inside our string. Well, for getting these credentials, you have to click on app settings, then security and keys, and you can get all the keys from here. So let's copy the application ID, client key, and of course for the backend server URL stays same for all your apps, which is parseapi.back4app.com. Yeah, so let's come back to our app class, and the initialization is done. Now let's add the login function to our login screen, which is pretty straightforward here. First we will define a login function, which takes parameters email, password, context for showing toast message, and a nav controller. If the login is successful, we will navigate the user to another screen. Now you just have to call a parse user dot login in background. This is a method, and you have to provide email and password. This will make you log in. Then we are just checking the parse user. If it's not null, then login successful. If it's null, then maybe there's an exception. So there's that, and we are navigating the user to user screen, which will be our next screen. So now just on login button click, we need to call the login function with its parameters, which are email, password. These are the states we defined earlier, the context, and the nav controller, which we are getting inside the login screen. Okay, so looks like our login function is complete. So we will add a composable for users, and this will render the screen user list. Okay, let's pass the nav controller here and modify it to accept the nav controller. Okay, so the signup function is also very similar to that. So I've added the code here. Let me explain you. We are just creating an instance of parse user, which we are importing from the parse SDK, and we are calling a function set username on that, and we are passing the email similar with the password. And now we are calling a function called signup in background, which performs a signup request to the server in background, and we are then checking the exception If the exception is null, then the sign up is successful and we are showing a toast message. Else, if there is an exception, we are just showing a toast and ending the current session with parse user.logout. So yeah, this is the code for sign up and we are just calling it on sign up button click. Okay, one more quick change. We have to actually register the application class in our manifest. For that, we directly set the name of the application to the class. Now let's run and test the application. So let me sign up first. So as you can see, sign up is successful. Now let's log in. Login is also successful and it has redirected us to the user screen. Since we are yet to make it, it's blank. Okay, so for that, let's first create the user model. So it will be a data class and it will have fields like user ID, username, email, etc. So let's add them. These will be string type. Okay, so the user data class is complete. Now we will start designing the user list screen. Okay, now let's start designing it. So first I've changed the user list screen to a function and added the composable here. Okay, let's first discuss the flow. This screen will fetch all the users from the database and it will show them user list items. So for that we have to make a request to the backend. So let's start making it. First we will declare three state. First one is for loading. We will use that for showing progress dialog, and the second state will hold the users. We will be making a request to the backend. So this is a blocking task. That's why we are launching a coroutine, and this coroutine scope is required for that. Let's continue, and this is a launched effect. So we will do all the asynchronous task of fetching the users from the backend in this launched effect. Okay, the coroutine will execute the following code. It will fetch the users from the database. For that, we have called this fetch users method, which we will define in a moment. And at the beginning, first is loading is set to true, and after the work will be done, this will be a suspend function, and after that, it will be executed. The loading will be set to false. Same thing in case of exception. Okay, now let's show some progress bar while the users will be loading. So we will show a circular progress indicator if the loading is true. Else we will show the user items. For that, let's create a column here and a text which says select a user to chat, and for each users let's render a user item. And once the user item will be clicked, we will navigate the user to the chat screen of that specific user. We will use nav controller.navigate function to navigate to that screen, and we will pass the route chat and the user ID of that user. So chat slash user ID of that user, and we will handle that in the main activity in a moment. Let's first write the fetch users function. So this is suspend function. It will do a API request to the backend and return the users. Let's write a try catch block and query the underscore user, which I showed you earlier, that all the users in your database resides in this class. Okay, this is the query for excluding the current user that we ourselves should not be shown in this list. And we are calling the method query.find and storing the result in the parse users. Now for each user, we are just returning the user module. So this is the code for fetching the users. It will return all the users from the table and we will store in the users state. Okay, now let's define the user item. So user item will take user and on click parameter. User is the model and we are passing a handle click function which we are defining here, right? So let's continue. Build a card with some styling. And here we will have a row that will store the user image and a spacer, and a column for showing the username and the email. And at last we will show an arrow icon. Okay, so the user item is also done. Now let's seed our database with some fake users so that we can see them here. Okay, so we are now back on the Back4App dashboard. As I said, there is now a session class that will hold our current user session. Now let me show you the power of AI agent. So you have to click on AI agent here. So we will be asking the AI agent to create our schemas and also seed our user database. So I have a prompt ready. I've just tried that I'm trying to create a chat application and I want you to create the classes, and I've defined the classes. So message class fields, I've defined these in the natural language. I just have to feed the prompt. Okay, so let's enter the prompt and I will write just create this in chat app and let's see. See, it has successfully created these classes in my application. Now we can see it. I'll go to my apps, dashboard. So as you can see, it has automatically created message and notification. You can see the power of the AI agent. I just defined my requirements in natural language and it has directly created those classes in my database, saving my effort of creating them manually. So let's go back and seed some users so we can try and chat with them. So let's go back to AI agent. I've just asked it to seed the user class with 5 sample users. Okay, the user has been successfully seeded with 5 sample users. So as you can see, it has returned the users. Now let's go to our app and check. It has seeded the user class with 5 other entries. Now we can load these in our application and test it. Apart from doing these tasks, the AI agent could also help you in the process of coding. Like I was testing the agent with some prompts and it works really good. See, I've just asked it for giving me the notification code, so it sent me that. So as you can see, the users which we had seeded in the database are appearing here, so we can essentially click on anyone and chat with them. For that we have to design the chat screen. Just see how easy it to make all these with Back4App. It has really simplified all the work for us and handle the backend part of the application. So now let's move and create our chat screen. Okay, in order to add real-time chat capabilities in our application, we need to add another library, which is Parse Live Query. So I've added it here. Apart from that, I've also added another library for constraint layout, which will be used by our chat screen. Now let's start with our chat screen. First, we will get the current user from the session. For that, we will call parseUser.getCurrentUser. This returns the current logged in user. Now, in our quick chat theme, we will define a scaffold. And here we will define a top bar. In the top bar, we will define some styling like the container color and the title color. We will define a title and we will define a back button. Here we will navigate the user to the previous screen. Okay, let's continue. In the body of the scaffold, we will add an constraint layout. And this is a lazy column for loading all the chat messages and the conversation between the both users. So here I've used the modifier to occupy full space and here I have set the constraints. Okay, now let's design a chat box so that user could enter his message and send it. So for that we will define a chat box function with the composable and it will accept two arguments, on send handler and a modifier. Okay, let's continue. This is state for holding the message value whatever the user will be typing. Okay, I have added a row and outline text field. This is the text field where user will be able to type something and applied basic styling on it like the color and placeholder value. Let's continue and add button to send the message. So I have defined the on click and we are calling whatever the handler passed into the chat message that is on send with the chat box value. Okay, now let's add chat box in our main layout. For that I will add 3 states. This is for storing the messages. Let's import chat message. Okay, this is a scope for launching the coroutine for sending messages, and this is context. Now we just have added the chat box with the onSend method and a modifier for full width and fixing it to the bottom. Now we are launching the coroutine for sending messages from here, and we are adding that to the message state so that the user could see what he sent on the screen. Okay, now I'm replacing this with the chat message model. So this will have fields like ID, sender ID, receiver ID, message, timestamp, and is sent by current user. So sender ID will be the ID of the user who sent the message, and receiver ID will be the ID to whom the message is sent. And we have fields like message and timestamp for showing the time on the message. Okay, now come back to chat screen and let's define the send message function. First we will define the function which takes sender ID, receiver ID, message content and returns a chat message. And this function launches a coroutine with the context, and we are creating a parse object instance of the message class and applying these properties to it. And this message.save in background will save that message in your database. Now let's create a helper function which will convert this into a chat message object. So this one does that. It will return the chat message from our parse object. So this right here is the send message function and it's complete. This will save the message to the database. Now we will define fetch message function to fetch the messages from the database to the screen. So this one is the function, takes current user ID and the other user ID that we are chatting with, and we have a callback function on message fetched. So this is a query and it says it fetches the messages sent by the current user to other user and the messages sent by other user to the current user. So it fetches both type of messages, and we will order these by timestamp by the send time, and we are running this query in background. And if the exception is null, that means the messages are fetched. We are calling this on message fetch callback function. Now we will add the code for listening to new messages which are added to the database, and we will add that to the message state. So for that we will define a function start live query. This will start a live query on the messages class. So it will take the current user ID, other user ID, context and handler message. So let's define a parse live query client. We will listen through this client and let's define the query. This is similar to the fetch message query, and we are subscribing to the message create event. So what it does that whenever a new message will be created in the database, it will listen to that and it will add that message in our message state. Okay, so start live query is also done. Now we just need to call these functions. On the top of the code we will add a launched effect here to launch these coroutines for fetch messages and start live query. This expects an user ID, so we'll take that in the parameters. Now we just need to show all of the messages in the message state into our lazy column. So let's do that. For that we have to create a composable of chat item. So this takes the chat message as the parameter, and first it will check if the user who sent this is the current user. According to this we will align it. So then we will add a column and box with a modifier for aligning the message based on whether it is sent by current user. And there is some styling for rounded corners based on current user. So let's continue and add a function format timestamp. So it will format the timestamp coming from our server into more readable format, which we will show on the message. The send time of the message will be shown below the message. So this is the text for that. It's done. Now we just need to add these in our lazy column. It is asking for the import. Let's import the correct one, and it's done. So let me give you a recap what we have done. First, we have fetched all the messages from the message table. Then we have started a live query to listen for new messages and to add it into our message states. And once the send button will be clicked, there will be a new entry to our database. So it's simple code. Okay, now we are left with setting up the composables for the screen for the navigation. So let's do that. The route will be chat/user ID. This user ID will be passed to the chat screen. So now let's define the screen. We will get the user ID from the arguments here, and we will pass it to chat screen. Okay, it will first check if the user is valid, then it will render that screen with that as a parameter. So it's done. One more thing, now let's do the setup so that the already logged in user should not be sent on the login screen again. Instead, they should be transferred to user list screen directly. So for that, I will create a coroutine. With the launch effect, I will launch that, and in this we will simply check if the parse user dot current user is not equal to null, then the user should be sent to the user's route and the splash screen should be removed. So we have added a composable for splash and left it empty. It will be handled by the default splash screen. So we just have to change this to splash so that the first screen which will be opened is splash, and then it will launch the coroutine and check if the user is available. Then it will send to the user screen, else it will send to the login screen and remove the splash option so the user couldn't go back to it. So now the navigation setup is complete. We have all the screens and we are navigating the user based on if they are login or not. And let's test it real quick. Okay, so now I have launched it in my real device side by side with the emulator, and I have logged in with this account. So let's see if we can chat. Okay, let's type. So as you can see, this message over here is received. Now let's send a message from here. And as you can see, it is available here. So we have finally implemented the chat feature and it's working perfectly. So now in last, let me show you if you want to integrate push notification feature in this application, then how you can do it. Okay, so for that, inside Android Studio you have to click on tools, then you have to click on Firebase, you have to click on cloud messaging, then you will see an option called setup Firebase. You have to click on that. So these are the options for how you can configure Firebase. You have to click on connect to Firebase. It will launch in window and you have to sign into your Firebase with that. Okay, I have signed in. Then I will click on create a project. The name will be automatically selected. I will click on continue, select an account and normally create a Firebase project. Okay, now it's done. Let's click on continue. You can see the project is now connected. You can check the documentation of Back4App for push notification integration. They have a really good guide on that. So now we will open the project here and we will go back to project settings. Next to your sender ID, you will see an option for manage service account. You have to click on that. Then you have to click on this option and click on manage details and click on keys and add a new key. We will select the JSON format and click on create. Since I have already created it, after creation you will get a JSON. So you have to upload the JSON here in the Back4App app settings, server settings, and push notification. So let's select that JSON and click on next. It will take some time and upload our JSON. So it's done now. Now we just have to add two dependencies here. So the first one is parse FCM for adding the Firebase cloud messaging, and another one is parse board. So now in the manifest file you have to make some entries. First of all, you have to add permission. These are required for receiving the push notifications. Next, we will add this metadata, and this will be the name, and in the value we are just adding our FCM sender ID which we got from the project settings. I've created a string entry and referenced it here. Next, I've added service. This is a service for receiving push notification in the background, and there is a broadcast receiver with the intent filter for receive, open and delete. So that's pretty much it for the manifest file. Now our configuration in the application is done. If you want to send notification on specific events, like whenever a message is received, so you can do that by coming to cloud code, and in the main.js file you can define the function. I've already defined a function. Let me explain it to you. So there's a trigger before save which is used whenever you want to do something before a new entry is added to specific class. So we have used that parse.cloud.before save, and inside we're just getting the object from the request in message, and if the object exists we are just getting the receiver ID property from it, and we are forming a query to send the notification to that specific user whose object ID is receiver ID, and we are creating a payload with alert, title and the message. After that we are just using pass.push.send with the query and payload as parameter to send the notification to that user. So this can be used to send the notification to a user whenever a message is received. So we have created a basic application with the features authentication, chat and notifications. Of course you can extend it to match your requirements, and there are a lot of additions that you can do. I have added all the code to a repository and posted it on GitHub. If you want to check out that, then you can check the description for that link. You can clone it and try to add other features. There's a lot you can do with Back4App. As I said, they have awesome documentation on several topics. So go check out Back4App. You will find a link in the description by which you can get flat $25 off, or you can use this coupon right here, Akash-Back4App. This will give you $25 off on plans. So that's it for the video. I will see you in the next one. Thank you.